Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Schaefer. I'm the Associate Director for Graduate Student Success and Professional Development with the Graduate School. This is our second of three guest speaker talks during our Career Pathways series for the spring 2024 semester. I almost said 2023. It's 2024. And I am so pleased to welcome back two of our graduate school alumni and who will be talking about their kind of career, specifically career trajectories, since that is the title of the panel. So kind of where they started and what they're doing now, and kind of the ins and outs of what they do professionally. But before we hop into the questions, what I would like to offer the panelists is an opportunity to introduce yourself. So Karrie and Casey, if you can introduce yourself, tell us what program you were in here at UTSA and what you're doing now, and a little bit about your current position. So we will start with the person that's on my left of the screen, which is Karrie. So Karrie, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, John. So my name is Karrie Elpers. I have a Master's of Science in Psychology and a Doctor of Philosophy and Psychology from UTSA. I'm currently working as a business analyst at H-E-B, which is obviously a major grocery retailer in the state of Texas. A business analyst is not as related to psychology, um, but I can talk a little bit about how I got there with my degree later. But some of the major things that I do is I look at data from across the business and I speak to leaders, people who work in stores, and I try to determine what things are important for them to be able to do their job well, and how can I use the data to facilitate those decisions and make it easy for them to really dig in and find more information about their specific questions and the problems that they're encountering so that we can make good business decisions and do what's right for the people working in our company, but also for the customers who have come to love and trust H-E-B.
Thank you and welcome. And Casey.
Hello, my name is Casey. I graduated with a Master's in Science and Health Kinesiology with a track in community health. And currently I am an epidemiologist at San Antonio Metro Health. So I work, my day-to-day duties are just conducting investigations, doing data analysis, and conducting health reports for the Bexar County community about infectious diseases, what's trending, educating the community about preventing infectious diseases within the community.
Wonderful. So let's start there. What brought you to what you're doing? You both have very, very interesting and unique positions. And I know in our initial email communications, when I saw what you both did, I was like, well, this is just a treasure trove of experience. And like you mentioned, Karrie, a little bit outside what people would normally think are traditional jobs for psychology majors. So let me go back. We'll pop back to Casey. So Casey, what led you to your current position?
So I became interested in epidemiology when I took the course at UTSA. I was a graduate research assistant within the public health lab there. And so I was able to work with Dr. Sosa, who was the professor at the epidemiology class. And it just, learning about that, I just really wanted to get more into it. And so that kind of like what started me in my epidemiology, trying to get the job.
And Karrie, what brought you to your position?
Yeah, so I was very lucky. One of the other alumni from UTSA had actually secured a position at H-E-B, and when they were looking at interns for their people analytics team, they came back to UTSA and they say, hey, we know that all of these great skill sets are things that we're teaching our students here. Do you have anybody that would be interested? and I actually applied for the internship and I was able to get it. And from there, it was really just networking and talking to people and trying to figure out where there would be a good fit for my skill set, where there was also a need. Because unfortunately, my internship was not one that had a job guarantee at the end. So I had to find a new home for me to stay with H-E-B.
So would you both say that your degrees, I mean, I think, you know, Casey, you kind of intimated that the answer to this question is yes, but just to clarify, that your degrees that you received your education in your graduate program, directly or indirectly relates to your current position, and then how? And we'll start with Casey.
I would say my master's in science definitely is not as common in the public health workforce. A lot of my coworkers have masters in public health, but I would say that this indirectly influences like my job with data analysis, being able to collect data, analyze data, and I think I've still got a lot of the training that I use today in my position, even though I have a master's in science.
And Carrie, your position just on paper seems a lot more of an outlier to psychology. So I'm interested to hear if there are pieces of your education that take part in your everyday work and in your career.
Yeah, that's a great question, John. So the position that I was initially hired as an intern for is actually one that uses a lot of the skill sets that I learned in the psychology course at UTSA, getting my master's and my doctorate. In particular, I had one graduate class that I took as an elective where we were using R for data visualization, and that was a huge help, not only because it taught me those skills, it taught me to think about data in a certain way and be able to use a free tool to visualize that data. But it also enabled me to have some type of document that can show that I know how to do what I say that I can do. And it's not just me going into an interview or talking to a recruiter and saying, oh no, I have this skill set. I really have something that I can demonstrate my knowledge, demonstrate my mastery of those skills. But I think any higher education, whether it's in a field that's related to your current job or not, can influence the way that you're doing your current job in so many great ways. In particular, my degree prepared me by, similar to what Casey was saying, being able to think about people data. People data is a little bit different than other types of data. Being able to think about survey data and how that's different, knowing about sampling. These are all things that are very base foundational concepts when it comes to psychology. Um, Casey, maybe you found this to be the case, but being able to take complex concepts and distilling them into clear, easy to understand talking points. This is something as you're doing graduate degrees, maybe you're teaching and you're learning that skill set as you're teaching your students by taking these really complex ideas and being able to discuss them with someone who isn't as familiar. And that's so important in a business setting because they aren't data analysts. And I don't know, Casey, maybe that's you too. You're taking these data analysis concepts and you're talking to somebody. And that is such a wonderful skill to have. Thinking about causation and what does and doesn't make a study and what can we really say causes something else is a big part. Being able to think critically about data. There are a lot of what you could call like researchers' degrees of freedom whenever you're thinking about how data is analyzed and how data is collected, and that really can have a big impact in the final message. And this is something that I was fortunate my degree talked about a lot. And so I can take those skills and I can translate them to a business setting where I can talk about, well, this is the way you collected the data, and this is the implication that it's going to have for the insights that we can draw. And most importantly, just having that questioning mindset, knowing that I am able to learn things and having that confidence of knowing like, yes, this is a problem, or yes, this is a new skill that I'm not familiar with, but I have a doctorate. Like I can do it. Like I know that I can do it. And coming to a problem with that mindset and being able to tackle it in that way, I think is so valuable. And I think it's really a benefit that we get from higher education.
And the same question for Casey.
So I totally agree with Carrie. Having great writing skills, not only to disseminate what the data shows, but also to portray it in a way that the community understands. Not having, high level wording, but just to make it more readable and more presentable to the community. That's something that I learned during graduate school, is just having that great writing skills and dissemination. And then also, presenting, I was able to present one of my projects at a conference, and being able to have presentation skills is really important in order to convey what the data shows that you're conducting. And then also learning about machine learning, so statistical analysis within SPSS, being able to understand how to collect data correctly, how to clean data. That's all very important about what I learned in my graduate program, and then being able to put it into work here. And also like being curious and having those problem solving skills are also like very needed. Just always asking questions like, why is this happening? Why is this here? Why is this disease most prevalent here? That's also always needed.
I'm gonna ask, I tend to ask questions. I mean, I know I provided you all a list of questions, but then I tend to ask questions based on me listening to you. So when you were in your various degree programs, did Casey, you think, oh, I mean, automatically, I'm going to be an epidemiologist for the city of San Antonio, and the same thing with Carrie, I'm going to be a data analyst for H-E-B. Did that even, like, did those type of roles cross your mind when you were in your academic program? And you could say yes or no, and if it's yes, maybe explain, yes, in fact, this is what I wanted to do.
So I was definitely more into data analysis. I wanted to help, be a research assistant, but then also in the back of my mind, I was hoping to also get an epidemiology job. So in a roundabout way, I found my way there. I think what helped me get to this position is just, just just keep applying to those jobs, and eventually, networking with other people. They can reference you, put you as a reference so that you can have that position. So initially, after my master's program, I was a research assistant at Lackland. And so those skills I still was able to use, data analysis, data collection, all those just increased like throughout my contract job at the Air Force. And so, and also during that time, I also got in connection with people at San Antonio Metro Health, and, people that went to college, that I went to school with, and being able to put them down as a reference is what led me to get a job into San Antonio Metro Health, because it is very competitive. A lot of people do stay in the government position for a long time. So once a position opens up, it's very competitive.
Well, Casey, you stole my thunder, because I was one of my follow-up questions was gonna be if networking played a role in your job. But Carrie, you obviously was a little different because you were in an internship at H-E-B, but then needed to find a different home within H-E-B. But so that's the context. But going back to the question, when you were a psychology Ph.D. student, did you think, oh, I'm gonna go be a data analyst for H-E-B? Would that have even, I mean, would that job prospect have even crossed your mind if you hadn't entered the internship?
Yeah, that's a great question, John. When I was obviously getting my master's at UTSA in the same program, there were alternatives that I could have pursued, looking more at data instead of at psychology. And data was always something that really drew me. I found it very, very interesting to work with the data and work with the numbers. But I did choose to move forward with a PhD in psychology, and I absolutely was not intending to take on a career in the way that that I did when I applied for the internship. I think my goal was to definitely go tenure track and to create my own research lab and to do my own research studies and to work on publishing and increasing our knowledge just about some of the various things. My topic was general intelligence and emotional intelligence theory of mind. So I was really into that specific niche, and that's really where I was focused whenever I started. But to Casey's point, and maybe getting to a future question, I think that networking experience is so important. And I think if I had done a better job of networking with other alumni, I think maybe my horizons would have been a little bit broader and I would have known that these options were out there. I would have been more aware of the different opportunities, other than this weird opportunity popped up and I just happened to apply and get it. And that being a surprise, maybe I would have been more thoughtful and more deliberate in some of those decisions to try to build that skill set.
And we talk a lot in our professional development sessions about the importance of professional networking and maintaining those relationships. So obviously, in one form or fashion, networking played a role in your positions. Now that Karrie, how many years have you been with the H-E-B now?
I got my internship 3 years ago, a little over 3 years. It'll be 4 this summer.
Okay, and Casey, how long have you been with the city of San Antonio?
I've been almost 3 years now.
Almost 3 years. Okay, so you're both well into your jobs, your careers, in your positions. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you were in your academic program? So what do you wish, yeah, what do you know now that you wish you knew then? And we'll start with Casey.
I would say, I wish I had gotten an internship in directly into the health department. Hopefully that would have been, gotten me started a little bit sooner than when I did. So if you're looking for a certain field, I would say definitely get an internship in that you're interested so that you can get experience in the field. Another thing I wish is learning statistical programming. That's a very wanted thing on the resume now. And the only thing that I kind of dabbled in was SPSS. So if, a class is there, I would definitely take it to learn, all the programming that you can, STATA, R, SQL, anything that intrigues you, I would definitely try to get a course on that.
And Karrie?
One of my biggest things that I wish I'd known, and obviously I did know this, but it's the student loans, you have to pay them back. And so I probably would have tightened my belt a little bit more than I am doing now. Some of the other things to what Casey is saying is I wish that I had actively sought out more opportunities. I wish that I had been better at networking, been better at reaching out to those connections with former alumni who had been in the same program. Right now, not the team specifically, but I've actually met 3 or 4 people who have almost the exact same degree as I do, a Master's of Science in Psychology from UTSA. And so I wish that I had met these people earlier. And so that's one of the things that I really, really wish I would have done. Some of the things that Casey was talking about were things that I knew that I wanted that I didn't pursue as aggressively as maybe I should have. In particular, Casey, you've been talking about machine learning, and that's something I've been wanting to learn for like years now because my statistical background did not include machine learning. And so I hear people talking about it and I want to be part of those conversations. It's so exciting. But learning the different programming languages, I was fortunate to come in knowing R. I wish that I had maybe learned Python. I know SQL right now. And thinking about ways that I could have gotten the skill set that I need, I guess is what I would have liked to do, since there's not a lot of overlap in a lot of the hard technical skills. So I wish that I had been more deliberate kind of going after those types of things. And obviously, if I had known that I was going to need them, maybe I would have.
And I think going back to kind of both of you, again, with the networking and kind of what you were talking about is, I don't think it's ever too early to start networking. You may think of networking, or students may think of networking as something you do outside of school. But the reality is, because you're in a graduate program, there are people in your program that are already professionals, already have careers in the fields you're looking at. And so I'm not saying use your classmates, but use your classmates. I mean, use your classmates as part of building a professional network. That is how I actually landed my job. My first job at UTSA was a person that was a classmate, was at an administrative level where he hired positions within his area. And I was getting ready to end my program, and I reached out to him just because I saw some positions were open in his area. And he said, "No, I don't want you to apply." But because there's this other position that we're about ready to launch that I think you'd be perfect for. So if you could just hold off a little bit once it posts. And I ended up getting that job. So it's as important who you know as what you know. I think they're just equally as important and go hand in hand. Networking gets you very, very far, especially if you nurture those relationships. You can't just meet someone, shake their hand, take their business card, and necessarily utilize them. But if you really, I mean, you can utilize them, but to nurture those relationships, to show interest, is important, because those are the people that will come back time after time to help you out. But this panel is not about me. It's about Dr. Elpers and Casey. So in your jobs, respectively, what is the most rewarding or enjoyable part? What do you like the most? And we'll start with Carrie.
One of the most rewarding things that I get to do is I get to help people make decisions using data. And it's almost a cliche now to say data-driven insight. That's like the buzzword, right? For so long, like that was what you put on your resume, and that was what you put into the points that you wanted to talk about whenever you got an interview. But it's almost cliche now, where like people are almost backing away from it. It's become hackneyed. It's been used so often. But that really is one of the things that I enjoy most about my position. And the reason for that is because if you don't provide data, and not just data, because there's the saying that something is better than nothing, right? When it comes to data, that's not always true, because if you don't have data, you're more cautious in your decisions. Maybe you don't go full steam ahead. But if you have data, if it's bad data and you think it's good data, you might go forward and make a very deliberate, very intentional risk decision, and not knowing that your data is bad. So that's one of the things that I love most, is getting into that data, really digging in and helping people make decisions, but also making sure that the data is good, making sure that they know if this data has limitations, what are those, and how should we be reining in our instincts to take those risks based on what we do and don't know. Because the alternative is somebody is going on their gut, what they think that they know. And as a student of psychology, we know that your gut can be very powerful. Your intuition can be a very powerful thing, but there are a lot of different reasons why it's not always the most accurate thing. And so we do want to rely on that data whenever possible. And so that's the part that I love, is being able to make a big, meaningful, maybe not big, I'm being a little bit too um, overinflating my ego there if I'm assuming that I'm helping make big decisions, but make decisions based on that data. That brings me joy.
And Carrie, or Casey, sorry. What part of your job is your favorite? What do you love about it?
So I do love the data aspects of it, just because I love data analysis. But another rewarding thing that I just really find just heartwarming is whenever we go out to the community and we educate people on infectious diseases. A lot of them don't know what even salmonella is. So it's, being able to give them prevention recommendations and educating them about certain diseases that are, more prevalent in our South Texas community is really rewarding for me and most enjoyable because they'll be, so much more aware and more cautious and hopefully living a healthier lifestyle.
I love that. I love both. I love both answers. Those are great. So if someone wanted to be, or someone that's in the room right now in the Zoom room or watches this video and they think they've heard you talk and they think, you know what? I want to be an epidemiologist or I want to be a data analyst. What is the job market like for those two positions? I think data analyst, probably the specific responsibilities differ from company to company, but in general, Carrie, what's the job market like?
So having been in my position for a while and having had the privilege of not having to really go into the job market as much to get it, I can't answer with complete confidence. I know the job market was a lot hotter a couple of years ago. There was a lot of desire to buy people with very technical skills. I think right now that desire is slowly kind of trailing off, where it might be a little bit harder to get positions. But I do think that the job openings are out there. I think people are looking for the exact skill sets that we have. And to Casey's point, I think data analysis, I don't know, I don't want to attribute something to you that you didn't say, like put words in your mouth, right? I think that the data analysis skill set is very easily applicable to a bunch of different fields, be that epidemiology, be that business, be that research. And so I think widening your scope would make your chances a lot better to be able to find a good position that you feel comfortable in.
And Casey, what is the job market like for epidemiologists?
So I think I've been hearing that epidemiology jobs are expected to increase thanks to the COVID pandemic. A lot of interest are there, but there's a lot of different roles that you can take on as an epidemiologist. You can be an infection control preventionist, where they work in the healthcare setting. It's basically the same job, but within a healthcare setting. And you're educating, enforcing hygiene use among healthcare workers, patients, monitoring and reporting infectious data, and improving hospital safety for patients and employees. And then there's different aspects of epidemiologists. You can be a molecular, a veterinarian, pharmaceutical. So all in that subject matter expertise, they would just analyze the data and the infectious, what's the risk factors for those diseases, what medicine is helping, the disease spread. And then for vet epis, what diseases are the cause of maybe transferring to human diseases and the rates of just veterinarian diseases that they're seeing. So there's a lot of different fields that you could go into as an epi. Something that's kind of related is biostat, and they deal more with the data analysis part.
Okay, thank you both. So the last question I'm going to ask before I open it up is, what's next for you? So in other words, what are the advancement opportunities available to you in your field? So what's your goal? What do you want to do next? And we'll start with Carrie.
Thank you, John. For me, unfortunately, there aren't a lot of advancement opportunities outside of the traditional business advancement opportunities that you might see in a more traditional team where you can advance to be a manager, or you could advance to be somebody that we call a program manager. A lot of the business teams that I'm familiar with use Scrum, which is a version of, it was initially built for software development. And the goal is to be able to take on manageable amounts of work and provide an output to people who are going to use it in sort of small bites and then iterate on that. And so another potential area where I could advance would be to take on one of those roles. But all of that is really going outside of my area of expertise. Within my area, there's not really a lot of ability to move up.
And Casey, where do you go next?
So at the local level, so there's different stages of epidemiologists. So you can go from an Epi 1 to Epi 2. So there's different levels. So I would like to move up to become, a Epi 3 or senior Epi. And then from there, I would like to continue maybe becoming one day the director of, public health or a chief of Epi, and that does require a Ph.D. or a doctorate in public health. So eventually I would go back to school and get that doctorate.
I see you taking over the CDC. That's what I see. You. just run the whole place.
I hope so.
Those are the questions that I have. I am going to first officially, before I stop the recording, thank our guest speakers for being here. Dr. Elpers, Casey, thank you so much for rejoining UTSA in the graduate school to talk to our graduate students. So thank you both.